still keeps in contact with, who took videos.
Oh, really?
And he showed us over, it was so crazy.
Where's he live at now?
He lives in Stillwater.
Ready?
I was like, it's kind of a weird.
I'd like to call to order the Penn Trafford regular board meeting Monday, June 9th at 7:08. We'll start with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We went to the same church when we were young. Way back then.
Mr. Lego, could you take roll call?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Mrs. Issing.
Here.
Dr. Klein.
Present.
Mr. Kachasik.
Here.
Dr. Costo.
Here.
Mr. Leonard. Here. Mr. Matarazzo.
Here.
Mr. Nemick.
Here.
Mr. Petrucci.
Here.
Mr. Stovar.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lego. Information, Dr. Harris, please.
Absolutely. The first one is coming from Mr. Vinton, and he's actually recording the meeting now. He does all the recording, even though he's not in the room. He does it actually from his house, but it's being recorded. He wants to remind that we are proud to announce that PTTV has won the NATAS Mid-Atlantic Student Production Award for Best Newscast and for Light News. This is the 6th time in the last 8 years PT Video has won the award for newscast. Julianne Fontano, Ella Malloy, and Brian Urban run for Light News for the news package on WTAE in the broadcasting industry. We are very proud of our programs, and we appreciate all the support for the video classes that you offer, and we also appreciate Mr. Vinton for all that he does for our video kids. In addition, we had some great news this afternoon. As you know, our softball was doing the state competition, and they won their game. They're going to the finals on Friday, so they might be bringing back another state title. So, and Tony's going up to the game. It's at Penn State, so a couple other people might be going up, and I still remember when, I think 2019 when they won the last one, what a great day it was and a great opportunity. And of course, I have a college visitation on that day for my own sons. It just doesn't come on the right day, but I'm happy for the kids and I wish them well. And that is all I have for information.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. We've come to the portion of the meeting providing an opportunity for public comment. The board will follow the procedures established in Policy 903, public comment in board meetings, which is accessible through the district's website. This time is designated for district residents and taxpayers to comment on the items listed for action or deliberation on tonight's agenda, or that may come before the board for action or deliberation at tonight's meeting. All individuals wishing to comment this evening must have registered their intent with the board secretary by 12 p.m. noon, one business day prior to the meeting. Each statement made by a commentator will be limited to 3 minutes. Individuals will be notified by the timekeeping mechanism when their time allotted for public comment has expired. Comments by public participants are their own and should not be assumed to be the statements of the school district or any of its directors, agents, employees, or representatives. First resident, Brad Fenari.
And he is not here tonight, so we're just going to go to Mr. number 2.
Dan Siraki. Is that correct?
Close enough.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm from Trafford Borough, taxpayer. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'd like to discuss the events of May 19th, the so-called senior prank day, in which a teacher was hospitalized, school property was vandalized, putting the maintenance staff at risk, and an unsupervised cookout was held on school property, all during the final day of state assessments, the Keystone exams. So first, a teacher was hospitalized for 2 days from this prank. Students filled the entryway with latex balloons. Latex is a known allergen that can cause instant dermal blistering and can trigger anaphylaxis in individuals who are sensitive to it. That is exactly what occurred to the teacher in question. Because the entryway was filled with balloons, the teacher who opened the door got a lungful of the dust from the balloons and triggered the event. So the only reason we're not talking about an accidental death tonight is because an EpiPen was administered on time and the EMS arrived quickly. This alleged prank could have killed someone just out of sheer negligence, and it's a miracle that it was limited to just one person. Second, the students had overturned a lot of desks and placed some on top of the cabinets. They also hung toilet paper from the ceiling, and this all had to be fixed by the maintenance department here prior to the start of the school day. And from the hundreds of desks that were turned upside down, this presents a repetitive stress in injury risk to the maintenance staff, as well as if they have to go around and remove streamers from the ceilings, they might have to get on step stools or ladders, causing risks of fall. This is a lot of risk that you're getting just for a small prank. And it's unknown how much of the teacher's property could have been damaged from their desks being flipped. Additionally, I don't really have time to fully list why an unsupervised cookout, power tool use, staging a bouncy castle on the grounds, a slip and slide are risks to the students and a liability for the district, but I hope that is just clear from what they are. The risks associated with the actions of the students are enormous, and yet the administration is aware. From a social media post by the students, you can see in a video an administrator, Dr. Healy, watching the students hang the paper and inflate the balloons. So this suggests how the students gained access to the building before the start of the school day. I'm sorry, I guess I'm out of time. But I just feel that it's a lot of risk.
Do you want to give me the letter and I can copy it for everybody?
Yes, I can.
I appreciate that. No, I appreciate you coming. I'll make sure everyone gets a
Did you
copy
bring your
too.
concerns to the principal?
I have not. This is the first public venue I have had the opportunity to bring this forth.
And I'm just trying to, I appreciate you coming and bringing this to our attention. Do you have a student in the school?
No, I'm related to the teacher that was
Okay.
hospitalized.
Well, thank you. Okay. Well, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, old business, there are no items under old business. Today, we held an executive session starting at 5:15 where we discussed personnel. Okay, we will now move on to the consent agenda. Does the board wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? No? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted under one motion?
Motion.
Second?
Question.
Motion made, second been called for, question being called for. This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Page 23 is where we're going next. Okay. Budget and finance, Mr. Stovar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe it's one item today, and that's to adopt the school district budget. Move to recommend that the 25-26 school district budget and schedules in the total amount of $69,954,693 properly advertised in accordance with the school laws of Pennsylvania be adopted and filed in the official board minutes to include the following taxes as shown in the budget. Real estate tax at a rate of 93.25 mils. The real estate tax rate for Allegheny County portion of the Trafford Borough is 14.32 mils. Per capita is at a rate of $5 on each eligible resident, and the Act 511 taxes are $10 per capita tax. I believe the budget breakdown is available on the website with these minutes that add up to the total budget that I mentioned at the beginning. And I believe This would represent a 3 mil increase.
Actually, does this represent a 3 mil increase, Brett?
This is a 2.5 mil increase.
'Cause I know the preliminary was a 3, and I'm very cautious, I mean, I'm very worried by seeing the 2.5 mil increase, because I believe, you're using some fund balance money to pay for some of the cuts, or some of the different things that I need, and B, I'm worried about using the fund balance. I'm also worried about losing some of our staffing and personnel if we go with the 2.5. Can you?
Do you want to revise your motion?
Additional question too, Mr. Legg, if you don't mind. And this is just in general, if anybody from the administration team wants to answer the question. Prior to the preliminary budget in May, how much money was cut? Give me a number out of the budget.
Even prior for us doing this, I actually have that information for you that I presented in public before.
It's just a reminder.
We had. We'd already cut about $500,000. If I actually go through, actually, to be honest, it's actually more. I don't have the total on the list.
All right, so if
But I can tell you what we cut. We cut.
No, you don't have to go through the list. I just want a general number.
Yeah.
And this is again, another question for the admin. What is the recommendation we know the recommendation from the superintendent. What is the recommendation from the assistant superintendent, and what is the recommendation from the business manager?
Well, I will say that I prepared this final budget with a 2.5 mil increase because I thought it was reasonable and it was sufficient without significantly harming the fund balance. But I would defer to Dr. Harris. He's the CEO of this organization, and if he feels strongly about 3 mils, then I think the board should consider that.
Brett, before Tiffany answers, I just one question for clarity. At a 2.5 mil perspective, what portion of the fund balance would be needed to sort of, but
Around $250,000.
and if we would do the 3, obviously that goes away, correct?
Well, it would be closer to $100,000.
And you think with the real estate taxes that 100,000 gap would be offset most likely?
Most likely, it should be. Every year with the development we're seeing, revenue typically comes over what it would sit at,
Year to year.
Year to year.
Yeah.
Looking around the community and you see the housing development still going up, I expect that to continue.
And our fund balance, just from a historical perspective, ideally you'd like to sit between the 5% and 8%, right?
Between 5% and 8% is the state recommended amount.
And we're sitting around 5% at the
We'll
moment.
be at around 5% at the end of this year, between 5% and 6%, yes.
Right. And for money that's currently in the budget that would go into the fund balance, the roughly $500,000, I believe it was, said at one discussion point, typically goes to capital improvements on our buildings, correct?
Correct.
Roughly,
$580,000 gets transferred into the capital improvements fund every year, yes.
And outside of that funding, is there any other money going into the reserve annualized that would stay there that's not earmarked already?
Not currently.
And with the building that we had purchased and the rent associated with that, if we're currently at 3 mils versus 2.5, does that rent money get allocated then to the fund balance? In theory.
In theory, it would be going into the fund balance, yes.
Or capital improvements, whether it's.
Whatever the board decides, but it would be a dedicated revenue stream that is outside of what
Right,
we
normal.
currently planned, right? We just started receiving, based on the agreement we reached with them, they didn't start paying rent until April of this year. So we'll have 3 months of rent for this year, and then a whole year next year, approximately $20,000 a month.
So outside of the capital money that's coming out for building improvements, this would be the only thing, in theory, going in to build our reserve back up to the 6 or 7 or 8%.
If we stay at 3 mills and not go to 2.5 mills. If we stay at 2.5 mills, basically that
Would go toward,
preserving the fund balance, yes. And not building it, but preserving it, yes.
right. Sorry, Tiffany, I didn't mean to, I just wanted some clarity before all three of you got a chance to speak.
Yeah,
So
no,
thank
that's
you
okay.
for your patience. Go, your turn.
Okay, thank you. I am also going to support Dr. Harris on this with the 3% for 2 reasons. Well, first, let me say it's not because I want to tax the citizens of Penn Trafford. That is not the reason why I'm supporting 3%. No one likes for a tax increase, including myself, but as a school district and as the assistant superintendent, I think our top 2 priorities every day is 1, education, and 2, safety. Perhaps 1 is safety and 2 is education. And even decreasing by $0.5 million would decrease programming to both education and safety. And long-term, I worry about what that would look like. So because of that, I support Dr. Harris with the 3 mil increase.
Brett, I have a question. I believe I asked you to cover this and you did your preliminary budget presentation. For this 2025 to 2026 budget, can you remind this board what we're going to spend on cyber charter schools?
Cyber charter schools is close to $2 million a year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We looked today, we had 101 students in attendance. So,
And what's that considered, Mr. Lego? An unfunded mandate
Yeah, it is.
from our friends in Harrisburg.
And I would say our friends in Harrisburg need to get to work on that issue.
Well, I know you had a question, Mr. Leonard, but can I piggyback on
I did.
Dr. Klein's question to Brett? Brett, can you remind everybody attending and those who are listening what percentage increase we had from the state from last year in our budget?
Last year for the current year, the upcoming year.
Yeah, for the upcoming year. What is our increase? How much percent?
If I'm remembering correct, it's less than 1%. I think it's 0.6%.
Okay, it's really unbelievable. And then one final question from me. I believe when I got on the board many moons ago, we were closer to the, again, I don't know if I'm, Christine, if I'm not quoting this correctly, but I was given back then a number of 50-50. 50% of the budget for the school districts came from the state, and 50% came from the local tax base.
5.4%.
Is that correct?
It's probably a Nick question.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of that. Typically, when they show the expenditures, it's so high for personnel. And when we look at where you get your money, it's very low federally, and then it's majority of your money comes from the local tax sources.
Yeah, I understand it, but is there any sort of state law that?
Oh, the 50-50?
Yes.
No, there was a case that sued the department, Pennsylvania, to meet the constitutional requirement of Pennsylvania of funding education, but they still haven't come to what that formula is going to be. So they won their lawsuit, but they're still in talks of how exactly that funding is supposed to work.
Well, I think I can add a little more insight. There is a component of the subsidy funding now that is to address the adequacy situation. So any of the new money that goes into basic ed flows through this new formula, this new adequacy formula. So it's a small percentage, but it is being addressed.
Thank you.
Under that formula, we fare very poorly. So where some other districts, based on the factors that are included, poverty, English language learners, a couple other things.
Median income.
We don't do well. That's why we're at 0.6%. When you look around some of the other districts, they're getting 3 and 4%. It's because they benefit from the formula and we don't. And that's been traditional around here, is every time they tweak the formula, it seems like we do not benefit from it. Phil, when you and I started, 20-some years ago, it was close to a 50-50 funding split between the state and the local. Now I think we're closer to 55 local and 45
It's
state.
fun, you must have read my mind, because I was just gonna ask you that question. We did come on at the same time, and
Yeah.
it's been a slow decline from the money we get from the state every single year, and it's a travesty as far as I'm
You're absolutely
concerned.
correct. Yeah.
We're high performing, low cost spending, and yet we're penalized for that. So just putting it out there for informational purposes. Thank you, everybody who answered the questions.
So, following up on Dr. Klein's question about how much we spend on cyber schools, doesn't that come out to like 6+ mils? Do I have that math right? 6.25 mils?
It's around 6 mils. The $2 million, that might include some other
Oh, okay.
expenses outside of just cyber charters. Because if we're at 101 cyber charter bill, part of that would be 1.5 million basically. But still, 1.5 million, you're talking 5 mils basically, yes.
Right, okay.
And
That's a
again,
lot. That's a lot.
when charter schools were first approved, almost 20 years ago, school districts were reimbursed a small percentage of those expenditures. After about 4 or 5 years, that went away because the state philosophy was, well, you've already accounted in your budget for those kids not being there, so we don't need to give you any more money for them. But they continue, again, to take these massive amounts of money from us year after year.
Well, in fairness, then, it should be, you only reimburse the amount of money you spend on your own students.
Well, I mean, in theory, that's what they're charging us, is so we do much better, quite honestly, than a lot of other districts under this formula, because we are a low spending district. So what we send to the charter schools is a lot less than, say, a Woodland Hills that has a much higher per pupil cost than we do. But, you know, I can't understand the logic. I mean, it costs the charter school the same to educate a kid from Woodland Hills as it does a kid from Penn Trafford. So why we're paying less, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, and it never has.
Okay, I have one further question. I asked this before, and I missed the meeting. This is a little bit of a stale question, but I asked about the tax deferral situation in the industrial park. It's the new one. It's a deferment of a number of years. I think it's 5, and it's supposed to be 20% reduction per year until they reach full tax rate. Has anybody checked to make sure that's being tracked?
I haven't yet had an opportunity to do that, Mr. Leonard. I have not.
Okay, because, I mean, I don't say that it isn't. Whenever I was still working, I could have, but I don't work. I'm not working there anymore. That would be a substantial pocket of money, because that place is building like crazy, and it would be, some of them would be up to 100% now, some would be at 80, some would be at 60, and the last few that were built would be a much lower rate, but I would like, if there's any way.
Mr. Leonard, can I ask a question to you on that question, on what you asked? If an agreement was made locally, wouldn't that be a copy of that agreement been sent to the local tax collector, whoever the tax collector is? They have to know that to be able to send the tax bill out.
That would be a good assumption. I would hope that that did happen.
I'm just asking, you know,
Yeah.
because to me, if I was the corporation or whatever that got the tax break, I would surely want to know that, you know, when I'm getting my tax bill, that it's to the agreement that was made. So I don't think that if we were doing to the agreement, the people who are paying the taxes would be in here complaining that it's not what they agreed to.
Keep in mind also that, you know, both the township and the county participate in that program. So, you know, those notices were all approved and went to the county tax assessment office. So, I mean, I feel pretty comfortable that the tax assessment office is on top of it, but I will double check.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Leonard.
the reason I'd say I'd have any doubt is because there's been multiple changes in the tax office, local, county, and I'm not saying it isn't happening. It might be a simple phone call to find out. If we could do that, I'd appreciate it. Because, Phil, I don't think there was an agreement like it wasn't, I never saw an actual agreement.
Oh, just a question that I had.
It was
that's all.
done by resolution and or ordinance. So it was, I never saw an agreement.
Well, that's what I'm referring to when I say an agreement. The taxing bodies agree to those resolutions.
Yes.
I had, Mr. Petrucci, did you have something? Did you have something to add
Do you have a
before?
question?
No, to answer what, semi-answer, what Mr. Leonard brought up, that, I'm going way back now to the mid-eighties, and on the other side of Mellon Road is an industrial park that we gave 3 years tax exoneration, and it was automatically rolled over, and that park is still doing very well. We could, and what he mentioned about this new industrial park, he's right, it is booming. I wish we had about a dozen of them located around here, but it is doing great. It's close to Route 22, but it's our property. Of course, that's where our administration building. But the tax exoneration, to my knowledge, is automatically rolled over after it expires. And how many years is it, Brett? 5 years? Is that 5 years on tax exoneration for a new plan or administration?
It was
building?
5 years,
Yeah, that's all.
20%
Every year?
Yeah, it's-
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
yes.
about right
Yep.
then. Okay.
Dr. Harris, I wanted to ask a question. The comments that you made, we're a high-performing, low-cost school district. Can you add some figures to that?
Sure, actually, we have been top performing school in Westmoreland County for the last several years. And we've also been top 5% of the state for the last several years as well. I would say, when I say several, I mean at least a dozen or more. So, and we're also low-cost spending, which we have been ever since I've been here.
And what statistics do you have with the low-cost spending?
The last stats that I looked at was last year, Pittsburgh Business Times, when we were 97 out of 99 for spending, and then we were top 10 or 11 in that last year. I can't remember, because Pittsburgh Business Times does something a little bit different than School Digger, which does something different than the other. Everyone has a little bit different measurements in place, but we are high performing, so.
In low cost. A couple of years ago, we were ranked 9th out of 17 in district millage. Mr. Lager, do you know where we rank right now?
I haven't looked at it. We're still somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Somewhere in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
And also, and I'm very strongly for the 3 mil increase. Per taxpayer, 3 mil increase, the average taxpayer, what would that impact them? You gave us a figure
Yeah.
last week.
Good amount.
The taxpayer, that goes on assessed value, not the actual property value, assessed value.
That's the motion on the floor. 2.5 mils.
Yeah, we did talk about this in public, and I don't want to misquote the amount.
It's about $84 a year on the average assessed home.
So $84 a year would break down to how much?
$7 a month.
How much?
$7.
$7
Is
a
that for
month.
3 meals? That's for 3 meals?
For 3
That's
meals.
for 3 meals.
So $7 a month for 3 meals. And Dr. Nix, academically, you've already shared the 2.5 to 3 meals. The 3 meals does make an academic difference to keep us high performing, correct?
I mean, one would assume because.
Yeah, I'm
we-
assuming you're our educator.
Yeah,
leader,
yes,
so-
because when we don't have the money, we don't have the resources, which include human resources. So, based on the support that we have for both our students and teachers, based on our educational knowledge, we would likely assume that those test scores could decline.
'Cause for example, when she
Based on
says,
statistics and probability. Now, our students are successful and our teachers are fantastic teachers. They would do everything they could without those resources to get those students to achieve. But it would take additional time.
What additional support do we provide because we've been low cost? What additional support do we have that others may not be using?
Matt, would you like to answer that?
sure, we have student learning assistants. We also have some fellows who are in the audience tonight, and we have tutors and different things like that. The student learning assistants, I would be worried because when I gave a list of potential cuts that we would have to make, I ranked everything in certain orders, and based on if we got 4 meals, if we got 3 meals, if we got 2. The difference between 3 and 2.5 mils is 3 SLAs. So I would have to lose 3 SLAs for next school year. And I get worried because the SLAs do a lot of our working with students for students who have learning needs, students who are also advanced and need extra enrichment, students who might not get the special ed service or get the reading service, but they still need services. So it's kind of involves students of all different ranges. One of our goals next year, and we even have for the MTSS goal, is to making sure we reach all students. And if we do not have 3 in place, it's gonna be very hard to reach that goal.
It would tax our teachers more with time, and our students wouldn't get that small group instruction, or the small group remediation that they need.
Talking with Denise, we've also had our numbers of special education students reach the 15% mark. We're at 548 students who actually are eligible for special education. So those numbers have risen the last couple of years as well.
How many SLAs do we have?
We actually have 16 throughout the whole entire
So
district.
we get on to 13.
Another 13.
At one time, we had 20-some.
That's what I remember.
We have, last year, we've taken some away. Remember when we had some, remember we raised 1 mil, so I had to eliminate some positions then. And when I say 16, I already took out 2 because by not going to 4 mils, we had to eliminate all of our tutors and 2 SLAs. So that's already cut. So I don't want to take 3 more SLAs away because we already took away 2. So we would be losing 5 if we don't go to 3 mils from 2.5. And Brett, another question you might want to ask, I know they asked you how many dollars 3 mils was, but what's the difference between 2.5 and 3 mils? Like how many dollars is that? That's that it costs?
It'd be $70 a year,
Yes.
so about $6 a month.
It would be $6 a month versus the 7. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically.
So if you're looking at saying, I don't want to do 2.5 because I'm worried about the tax, and honestly, we gave everyone a 1% and a 0%. We've really maintained not going above the 2% to the 1. So you're talking about $1 difference per month to keep our SLAs when I already gave up 2 SLAs. And I know Phil asked us about this before. I didn't have the total when you asked me, what else did I give up before I even came to the budget? We gave up educational program totals of $169,000. We didn't replace 2 classroom teachers. We didn't replace, we are changing our SRO officers at the high school. We had lost 5 paraprofessionals just due to the nature of the kids. 2 custodians have lost their position. We decreased the athletic budget by 50. We decreased the maintenance budget by 100,000. We had to use the fund balance for our weapon detectors. We did 2 bus routes. And since we're not going to 4 mills, we're losing 5 tutors. We're losing 2 SLAs, and we're also losing our compare analytical products that we use in the business office. So we are making setbacks. Like I didn't come to you saying we need all this. I just took those cuts and I made them myself. That was even before I approached you. When I approached you for the 4 mills, it was basically to keep the tutors. I understand that we can't get to the 4 mills, but I do not understand why we have to go from 3 mills to 2.5. I will respect it, and like Dr. Nick said, we will make it work, but it will be harder on the teacher. And I'm telling you, as your academic leader and your CEO, technically, as Brett always refers to it, for the district, this is what we need.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor with the budget as read, and it would include a 2.5 mil increase. Do I have a second?
I'll
What's on
make
the
a
floor,
second.
2.5 mils on the floor?
Yeah.
No second?
I'll make a second, then we'll put it to a vote and see what the majority wants.
I have a second. Question being called for.
Question.
Okay, Mr. Leo, could you roll call?
Yes, Mrs. Issing,
No.
Dr. Klein,
No.
Mr. Kachasik,
No.
Dr. Costo.
I am a no after the information that you shared today regarding the fund balance.
Mr. Leonard,
No.
Mr. Matarazzo,
No.
Mr. Nemec,
No.
Mr. Petrucci,
No.
Mr. Stovar.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay, do we have another recommendation for a millage increase, budget with a millage increase?
I have a question, because further on in number 8, it does talk about set millage rate. We do that twice. I mean, if we do it here, then we don't need number 8, am I right?
No, you need 2 separate motions.
Two separate motions. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't redundant. Okay, then I would move for the budget using a 3 mil increase.
Marty, can you calculate that figure quickly?
I got it. Brett usually gives us that number.
93.75.
Okay, I have a motion for the budget. with the-
9375, Brett, and what's the other?
The other is 14.39.
Okay, so, I move to recommend the same amount for the, total budget of $69,954,693. But we will move the real estate tax at a rate of 93.75 mils. The real estate tax for the rate for Allegheny County portion located in Trafford Borough would move to 14.39 mils. And Brett, nothing would change on the per capita or the act?
No, the only other number that would change is on page 24, the budgeted revenues would go to 69,870,195. I'll have to confirm that when I run it through the system, but that's what it should be, 69,870.
So that'll, if we approve this, that'll be adjusted.
It'll be adjusted, the minutes will be adjusted.
Is the mills correct though for
The mill,
Allegheny?
the mill should be correct, because that's what it was in the preliminary budget.
Okay.
Okay.
14.3.
If
So
something
everybody
really
understand, we're
happens,
going
I'll adjust that too.
same
It should
total
be.
budget, millage is up to represent a 3 mil increase. And, the only other change would be the total revenue number would go up based on that millage increase.
I have a question, maybe I'm slow on the uptake here. You said your motion would be to increase, you were okay with the budget number, but you said then that would bring it to a 93 point, what'd you say the millage motion?
93.75 is what Brett told me
Okay,
it
well,
would be.
the current millage is 93.25.
That's the proposed, the 2.5.
Oh, okay, so this 93.75 does reflect a 3 mil?
Yes.
Right, those two numbers I changed would bring the
Okay, so
overall.
I'm a little slow on the uptake, okay.
And the overall budget will be massaged if it's
The overall revenue number will increase by that.
The expenditure number won't change, the revenue number will.
Right.
Okay, do we have a second on this motion?
Second.
Question?
Question.
Question being called for. Mr. Lego, could you poll the board, please?
I certainly will. Mrs. Issing,
Yes?
Dr. Klein,
No.
Mr. Kachasik,
Yes.
Dr. Costo,
Yes.
Mr. Leonard,
Yes,
Mr. Matarazzo,
Yes.
Mr. Nemec,
Yes.
Mr. Petrucci,
Yes.
Mr. Stovar.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-1.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Mr. Nemec, if I could say something, from the onset of this, budget process, I had set in my mind that I couldn't support more than a 1 mil increase. With that being said, that, I understand the price of everything's going up, but, there's two reasons I couldn't vote for the 3 mil increase. The first is that our Penn Trafford residents are still feeling the effects of the historic 32.5% tax increase that our county commissioners did last year. And the second reason is that, cyber charter reform. I think that's the answer to this. I challenge the governor, the Pennsylvania Senate, and the Pennsylvania House to get to work on that. Thank you.
No, I agree with you guys. Well said.
I have nothing else, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Stovart. Next would be personnel and curriculum. Mr. Kachasik.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to employ the following personnel. New employment is continued upon the receipt of all necessary documentation and the acceptance of Act 34, 151, and 114 waivers from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania within 30 days. Joseph McAtee, custodian to be determined at, well, we don't know where that person is gonna be yet, unless you guys wanna chime in on where. Katie Alick, PCA to be determined, and Christine Kitchen, a PCA to be determined.
Do I have a second?
Question. No, I'm sorry, second.
Question.
Question being called for. This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Motion carried.
And I appreciate that. Two of our fellows who are here tonight, I guess their names would be on that list. Do you want to just come up briefly and just introduce yourself? Are you working on a class assignment as well? Just briefly just say where you are. I know you've been here last year and you're coming back, and you're both from St. Vincent, but.
Hi, I'm Andrew Swagger. I'm a fellow from St. Vincent. I work at McKellar Elementary. I'm a support kind of like a support teacher as a fellow there. We are both in a family and collaboration class right now for our masters at St. Vincent. We're here to just kind of look at and review what a school board meeting is like. We are both just trying to figure out and understand what the topics are and how the whole entire thing works. I do have a question, if you don't mind me asking. What is mill or nil that you all keep referring to?
The mill is the tax rate.
Okay.
That's when we're talking about what taxes we're gonna increase. We increase it by mill, and a mill is worth $314,000 for our school district. And every school district, they would have a different value for their mill. So for another school district, they may have another amount, but that's based on their school district, so.
Gotcha, okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Well, can I ask, where are you from? You local?
Yeah, North Huntington. Yeah, I went to Hatfield, though, so.
Your major's elementary?
Briefly come.
Curriculum instruction.
Oh, what are you guys?
They're here, and you're at Trafford Mill, but where do you?
I'm Aiden Provins. I work at Trafford Middle School. I'm doing my master's, same thing as him, curriculum and instruction. And he about, answered everything as to why I'm here. So,
What's your major? You're actually going to be for teaching which grade level?
secondary, so 7 through 12, and I'm an English major.
It's
So
nice to see you.
an English teacher.
We always need English teachers.
Question for both of you. Where did you earn your bachelor's degree at?
St. Vincent.
St. Vincent?
Pittsburgh, Greensburg.
Nice to have them. They were both back there. I wanted to introduce you to. I'm sorry for jumping in. Go on, Phil. I'm sorry.
Oh, no apology needed. I move to accept the following retirement resignation. Patty Gatson, a custodian at Penn Trafford High School.
Second.
Second, question being called for.
Question.
This will be a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
I'm very happy for Patty, but very sorry to see her go. I love her to death. She was very dedicated, and she took care of the nighttime school from 3 to 11. Always happy, always loved her job, and it was always nice to talk to. So,
I know, Mrs.
really
Zissig
good.
and I, we walk to schools every night. She is such a pleasant person, and been here like 20-plus years. And, she takes a lot of overtime that people didn't want to take. She's working 12-hour shifts, et cetera, so she's a very fine young lady, very committed.
He works very hard, always working.
That is all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kachasik. Next up is taxes, insurance, and census. Mr. Matarazzo, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Board of School Directors adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved, and it is hereby resolved by the Board of School Directors of the Penn Township School District, there is hereby assessed, levied, and imposed for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, ending June 30th, 2026, tax on all real estate in the district subject to taxation at the rate of 93.75, assessed valuation of taxable property. The real estate tax rate for the Allegheny County portion located in Trafford Borough is 14.39.
Mr. Lego, doesn't that number change though?
No.
No?
That's the change
That
number.
is a change.
Yeah.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Question.
Question being called for. This is a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
No.
Would
I
you-
got it.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all.
Thank you. Now, do I have a motion for adjournment?
And before you do, I want to thank everyone for a great school year. I think we had another fine academic performance. We had a lot of sports and our fine arts and musical performance. This has been another top year. It was a full year with Dr. Nix here as the assistant superintendent, which was actually great, so thank you. I would like to thank my staff, Mr. McCracken, Mr. Lego, and all the principals at the buildings, Denise Kupastek, and all the teachers. We had a great school year. Of course, I forgot Tiffany. I thought I thanked her first.
Oh, okay.
I
must not
Dr.
have been paying
Yeah, I
attention.
did. I was like, oh no. I was like, oh my goodness, in my mind did I thank Tiffany?
Yes, you did.
Thank everyone and the school board. And I know sometimes it's not easy for raising taxes and everything, so I do appreciate it on behalf of the schools and the school children. So thank you, and I appreciate it. And I know I don't like to make a longer meeting, so I'll stop thanking you.
Okay, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Everybody enjoy your summer.